Today's meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is called to order on November 7th, 2022. Welcome, everyone. Following adjournment of this meeting, I will call to order a meeting of the Neighborhood and Affordable Housing Advisory Board. The agenda for both of today's meetings are on the wall at the entrance to chambers, and please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure complete record of the board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. I will now ask the board members to introduce themselves and identify the fields they each represent, and we'll start with you, Carmen.
Carmen Santiago, representing the people.
Bruce Rector, Community Development Board for the City of Clearwater.
Kathleen Beckman, Clearwater City Council.
Robin Field, Residential Mortgage.
Kevin Chenault, representing the nonprofit industry.
Pete Scalia, representing the homeless population.
Jacqueline Rivera, Clearwater Housing Authority.
Pierre Cornelier, Residential Contractor.
And I'm your board chair, Camille Hefting. I represent employers in the City of Clearwater. 2.1 is approval of minutes. There's a set of meeting minutes, but there's also a meeting summary from the last meeting to make sure we're all on the same page. Please understand you're being asked to approve the minutes, not the lengthier summary. So may I have a motion to approve minutes from the October 11th meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Item 3.1, approve the 2022 Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report developed by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. This is a culmination of our work over the last 3 months. Ms. Warner is going to take us through the updates we are making to the report. And Mr. Lane, do you have anything you'd like to discuss before Amanda gets us started?
Yeah, first of all, thank you all for your work on this board. It's more important now than really ever than we've done it since we've been doing this committee. Now it's annual. One thing I want to talk to the board about is going through the updates today. So what this is all the input you've given us. That's going to what it's going to be. It's going to be reflected in an update for our local housing assistance fund. So we had a completed plan last year. So we're going to show the update with the strike-through underline from last year's plan, and that will be this year's plan. Okay. So we're in a bit of a time crunch. We have to get this to council. If there are any changes, if there's changes that we need to make, there's time to make them, but it's going to be difficult. So, but if there's some little language things that may or may not be perfect, that we don't need to change, I would encourage the board to kind of lay off of those if we can.
Okay.
Anything of significance, of course, we can, it's our job to raise that. So if that comes up and we'll talk about it, and we need to make an amendment to the plan, we will. So I just wanted to let you know all that before we get started. Again, thank you all. Ms. Warner?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right,
Is it on here?
Yeah.
can everybody see it? Okay, great. All right, first of all, again, thank you so much for being involved in this process. And this morning, because this is the public hearing to approve the local housing incentive strategy update, I just wanted to provide a recap of what we've done to date and then a summary of the final draft that was presented to you for consideration today. So just to recap, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee has 2 essential responsibilities. One is to recommend to the City Council actions or initiatives to encourage or facilitate affordable housing. And the other is to review local housing incentive strategies in the form of a report and local government policies that may include policies and procedures, ordinances, land development regulations, and the comprehensive plan. Where we are in the process, once the AHAC was formed this year in August 2022, the governing board, which was essentially the City Council, appointed the members to the AHAC. The AHAC met in September and October, and then here we are on November 7th with the public hearing to approve the updated LHIS report. This is to approve the report to go to the City Council, which will meet on December 1st. After that, it gets incorporated into the local housing assistance plan, and then that gets sent up to the state for compliance with the requirements of the SHIP program. Again, the definition of affordable housing, just so everyone knows what we're talking about, is monthly rents or monthly mortgage payments, including taxes and insurance, that do not exceed 30% of median annual gross income for a household. Also, 120% or less of the adjusted area median family income for Pinellas County. For rental units, not exceeding the rates for annual maximum rents by number of bedroom unit published by the Tampa St. Petersburg Clearwater MSA. And then for non-rental units, the sales price may not exceed 90% of the average area price for the Tampa St. Petersburg Clearwater MSA. Just so we know what we're talking about with affordable housing, this does go up to 120% or less of area median rent. So over the last two meetings, the committee revised several principles. These were principles 3, 4, and 6. 3 was revised to state designed to be sustainable, energy and cost efficient, and to minimize physical barriers to accessibility. This was to add more clarity to that principle. Number 4, the word aesthetic was added, also to add more clarity to that principle. And then a new principle, number 6, was added, revised to read updated to read incentivized to promote incorporation of affordable housing into all non-affordable housing developments. Additionally, in response to those revised principles, the affordable housing vision was updated. The word encourage was changed to incentivize, and for clarity, the word well-designed was revised to energy and cost efficient, and the word aesthetic was added to describe the character of the city's neighborhoods. Again, by Florida statute, the committee was required to look at 11 incentive areas. I won't read them all, but just know that there were 11 that were required to be reviewed. And then additionally, there were 5 incentive areas that were initiated by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee in past conventions of the Affordable Housing Committee, and those have been continued in the current draft. So in 2022, the committee reviewed the Local Housing Incentive Strategies report. 17 previous recommendations were modified or updated. 15 recommendations were continued with no change, so essentially as is, and 2 incentive areas were of no recommendation. The focus of the committee this year involved several topics, the priorities of which were size of city-owned properties, alternate housing types and co-housing, investor real estate, short-term rentals, down payment assistance loans, the timing of inspections, homeowner insurance and property tax issues, and the opportunity to coordinate with federal assistance and grants. There were other topics discussed, but these were the ones that rose to the top. So recommendation 1.1 was revised or modified. Instead of saying continue to strive to, just stating more affirmatively by completing reviews of single-family permit reviews within 4 days of the initial submittal and within 3 days of all subsequent submittals. Recommendation 1.2, again, to more affirmatively enforce the policy. 1.2 was revised instead of should to say will. This occurred twice in recommendation 1.2. Also regarding expedited review, recommendation 1.4, instead of publish, because the brochure is already out there, it was revised to review and annually update a brochure and other informational handouts to be published in a prominent location on the city's affordable housing website. The next one, modification of fees, number 2.1, was revised to take out the word as feasible, again, to more affirmatively state the recommendation. So coordinate with Pinellas County regarding database rate flexibility within the multimodal impact fee. Modification of fees, again, 2.2, the recommendation was revised to add language at the end, stating that continue to assess financial, legal, and administrative feasibility of reducing, refunding, or redefining by unit size the cost of impact fees and or permitting fees related to the development of affordable housing, added with the goal of being on par with other municipalities in Pinellas County. Again, related to modification of fees, recommendation 2.3, since this has already been amended, the language was revised to read continue to implement the fee schedule of fees, rates, and charges ordinance. Again, related to modification fees, recommendation 2.4, Since it was already developed, the Economic Development and Housing Department will continue to assist with the payment of plan review and permit fees and impact fees utilizing state and federal funds designated for affordable housing. On the topic of accessory dwelling units, this is where the issue of alternative housing types and co-housing was discussed in more depth on recommendation 5.3. The first part of that recommendation was stricken, and additional language was added saying provide flexibility for other alternative unit types such as co-housing to incentivize unconventional solutions to address affordable housing needs and support aging in place within existing neighborhoods. Moving down to recommendation series 9 for pre-adoption policy consideration. Recommendation 9.1 was revised to more affirmatively state the recommendation, so striking the word should and adding the word will. Recommendation series 10, inventory of public lands. Again, this was one of the issues that rose to the top, the size of city-owned properties. Recommendation 10.1 was revised to more affirmatively state the recommendation should is stricken and will is added. On 10.2, the language was added to add a link to Pinellas County's inventory on the city's webpage. So in addition to the city's inventory, also putting up a link to Pinellas County's inventory, understanding that the jurisdictions are geographically near each other and there may be opportunities just outside the city's limit. 10.4, again, revised to state the recommendation more affirmatively, striking the word should, adding the word will. 10.5, because this was already completed, the language was revised to say continue to monitor the policy procedure for distribution of city-owned lots. There's also language added to consider including energy-efficient items and related emergent technologies into the scoring matrix. Proximity to transportation, again, revising the recommendation to read more affirmatively. So 11.1, the city striking the word should, adding the word will, maintain and implement future land use element policies. Again, those policies already exist within the comprehensive plan. It's just stating will maintain. Recommendation series 13 related to the land development code. Recommendation 13.1. The word encourage was stricken and the word incentivize was added. And this is continue to incentivize developers to address recommended design standards for affordable housing. That section of the community development code already exists, so it's just enforcing the incentive component of that. So now we have recommendation 14, the series related to communication and marketing, recommendation 14.1. Although the main heading of the recommendation was not revised, several of the sub-bullets were. Regarding Amplify Clearwater, partner with Amplify Clearwater and others to broadly promote the benefits of and opportunities for affordable housing developments in the city and to communicate successes was added. The next one, or actually the next two sub-bullets, there was some language added to update and keep current the marketing materials. So in addition to preparing them, also make sure they're updated and kept current. And then the last one, a new sub-bullet was added stating share outcomes and analytics with appropriate city boards and committees. Recommendation series 16, recommendation 16.1. This is where the topic of investors, down payment assistance loans, insurance, etc. So we're talking about maybe some third-party factors that are barriers to affordable housing. The main heading of 16.1 was not modified. However, a sub-bullet towards the end of the recommendation in bullet series, and a new one was added saying improve the timing of housing quality standards inspections to facilitate closings on homes with down payment assistance loans, if feasible, under funding source recommendations. And this was intended to address the concern surrounding down payment assistance loans and how the timing of inspections may interfere with the ability to close on those loans. So that's why that bullet was added. With that, covers all of the changes. So that was the 17 recommendations that were modified in some way. From this point on, the next step in the process, again, is to go to City Council. So today, any recommendation for approval that you're making is to recommend sending it to City Council. And that would be on December 1st. Once it goes through City Council, then it gets incorporated into the Local Housing Assistance Plan, which has to be submitted to the state by March 31st, 2023. And then it has to be incorporated by March 31st, 2023, and then it gets sent to the state by May 2nd, 2023. So that's really the next step in the process, and again, this is for compliance with the requirements of your SHIP program with the grant funding. With that, again, just details regarding the meeting, and I will turn it back to the committee.
Thank you. I think what we'll do is we'll open it up to the public, and then when we go to the motion, we can discuss it as a committee. So does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Yes.
I have a note from Lisa Lanza. Dear City Manager Jennings, Planning and Affordable Housing Department, board members. When considering co-housing and attached dwelling options for single-family neighborhoods, please make available parking a key element. This is a link to the Affordable Housing Board meeting today. Co-housing and attached dwellings were discussed. And it's a YouTube. You can go online and get it. Note that 2 members of the board live in a condominium and will most likely not be affected by some of the options that are being addressed regarding co-housing/attached housing units in single-family neighborhoods. For example, in my neighborhood, Cedar Grove, we have had problems with inadequate street parking when the city has permitted the owner to make the garage into a bedroom living quarters. The driveways in Cedar Grove only accommodate 1 car. Also, street parking for houses that are built on small lots is a safety and welfare issue for the residents as well as for the municipal government. Access by emergency vehicles, infrastructure repair vehicles, trash pickup vehicles are impaired by parked cars on a neighborhood streets which were designed to accommodate 0 lot line homes and townhomes. The council member and CD representative members on this affordable housing board live in condominiums on Clearwater Beach and Sand Key, which have strict condo regulations. These 2 board members will probably never be adversely affected by the co-housing options and attached dwellings that are being proposed. Co-housing and attached living units in single-family neighborhoods such as Countryside, Coachman Ridge, Excalibur, Chelsea, etc. might be feasible because they have large lots, 2-car garages, wide driveways, and streets. Co-housing attached dwelling options would be detrimental to the welfare and safety of residents who live in 0 lot line neighborhoods and townhouses and or on small residential lots. Please set standards for the size of the lot and the off-street parking available when considering co-housing and attached dwelling options. Please submit this email for public comment at the next board meeting. Thank you. Regards, Lisa Lanza.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to approve item 3.1?
I'll set the motion.
A second?
One second, make the motion. Thank you.
All right, any discussion? Yes.
I have a couple of questions or comments. So if we look at the first page, or page 2, where we have that timeline, so we're we're here at November 7th, and then the council submits it to the Florida Housing Commission by the end of the year, and then the city council adopts amendments to the LHAC by March 31st and incorporate local housing incentive strategy. So it goes into effect, fully into effect of March of next year. Is that right? our recommendations after, assuming the council supports them.
Yeah, so we'll come back to, so basically it gets incorporated into local housing assistance plan, and then it comes back to the city council inside the local housing assistance plan in March, so that's by March 31st, 2023. And then it's not fully in effect until the state accepts it, essentially, which would be by May.
Okay.
So the state would have to receive the plan, review it, accept it, and then if it gets accepted, then it would be the effective plan, yes.
Okay. And so what I'm asking about that timeline, because I'm wondering, when can we expect, or when could I ask for, or this board ask for, like a midpoint update? How are things going with these changes we've suggested?
I would defer to
Yeah,
staff.
I can report back to certainly the NAHAB on that before the AHAC convenes again next fall. Probably can do that sometime in late winter, early spring. I can attend to that and talk about where we're at.
Late winter, like this winter? Like,
Yeah, like March, April, May, somewhere in that neighborhood.
but I thought it's not into effect until like March 31st. So I'm trying to figure out the timeline, because if it's not fully adopted until March, and then we start to, in August, designate staff and select AHAC members all over again, it's like March, April, May, June, July, it's only 5 months that it kind of got going before we start to look at it all again. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right, yeah. So this used to be a triennial requirement, so it was every 3 years that the AHAC convened and updated the LHIS report. And then I believe it was in 2020, I want to say, it became an annual requirement. So now it's every year the AHAC meets, reconvenes, and reviews the report again. So if you're looking for an interim time frame from, May to when you convene again, it really would be summer, essentially, like late summer. Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to have this discussion with the board. So we're looking at the changes that you all just went through, right? A lot of the changes are language changes to kind of, make the language more affirmative rather than passive, right? So when you talk about changes with any substance, really, I think this board had some great discussions, and you reaffirmed a lot of the things that we do that we need to keep doing. But as far as changes to the document, I don't see a lot of substantial changes. So two things that I noticed. Principle 6, you asked us to look into incorporating affordable housing with all development, right? That's a big thing. And that's something I intend as staff members to begin looking into right away. You didn't make a recommendation to implement it. I think that was a good move. I think we need to know more about it. But regardless of how this process is, I'll coordinate with the city manager. I will look into that, into the financial feasibility of that. The other thing that I think had some teeth was we had a really good discussion about down payment assistance and about how local government doesn't go fast enough. We need to kind of change the process and get an inspection going more quickly rather than later. That's something we're going to implement immediately. There's no way our council will not allow that. That's really a staff process that we really manage. It's not really something that will require council approval. So we're going to do those things regardless. So it's not like we're going to wait to implement this. It's going into effect right away, in my mind.
Well, good. So maybe then April or so. I mean, let's wait till it's officially, but I could ask as the council, can you give us an update on how things are going with LHAC? The other thing, so all those are great, when we look at that number 6, and I won't nitpick any words, we don't have to change them because I know it would be tedious, but it says incentivized to promote incorporation of affordable housing into all. I thought we had struck non-affordable housing developments and just into all housing developments. I mean, that it doesn't matter whether they're not affordable or whatever, but I mean, that's tiny. But one of the bigger ones, and it's big but not, it's, is the, well, here's a good measurable one that I think I would ask for. It's under 14.1. Partner with Amplify, Clearwater, and others to broadly promote the benefits of and opportunities for affordable housing developments in the city and to communicate successes. And that's where I think we can go and look and see what have they done to communicate. Hopefully we have successes to communicate, but we should be able to go to a web page or some kind of analytics and get that. And then the other thing was, so this is a big one, and this is a big one, but it's a hard one. So it's 16.1, monitor and encourage citizens to lobby for the development of statewide legislative initiatives to gauge the local impact of their provisions. And I would say, we are not encouraging citizens to lobby for the development of statewide legislative initiatives. And part of it is evidence, and we talked a little bit about this, about when we have the affordable housing meetings, how do we promote them? We have 0 attendance here on the only public meeting we have to help shape this before it goes to the council. And so I would pose we need to do better with social media, promoting it, doing all the rah-rah, holding it at a special time when people can come. And I would say that in our Clearwater 2045 comprehensive plan outreach to all the communities, we had those meetings in rec centers, we had them at times of the day when people attended, they did attend, they did give their opinion, and I think Gina can confirm this, the number one concern is housing, probably in every meeting. Affordable housing, housing options, housing variety, every single one. And with that said, we have nobody at our meetings. Nobody offers comments, nobody's getting educated, and nobody's rallying and writing letters to Tallahassee. And so I think we can, again, do better. And when the legislative session starts, like in February this year, it's later, February, March-ish this year, not January. Hopefully we can rally some troops and figure out what we can do, and that should be measurable. So, again, I hope we can do better with that. And then the other little thing was, I noticed again on 16, we've got some phrasing and other strategies that reduce the ongoing maintenance risk of homeownership for the second bullet, and then the fourth bullet is reduce labor and material costs for developers and maintenance and insurance costs for homeowners. And again, I think it ties back a little bit. We have some language somewhere about sustainability features to reduce the ongoing cost of home ownership, not necessarily maintenance, but that's one of the things I think we can do to help keep housing costs low. And so I would, I'd say, well, hopefully it's implied there, but maybe when we look at language next year, hopefully we'll start by next year this time, we'll have started some of our solar incentives that we have committed to. 1,000 low and moderate income homes will have solar by 2030. Hopefully we'll have something to show by next year at this time.
I think to your point with your first question about when can we expect an update on this, I think it's going to be incumbent on this committee and the AHAC Committee, since this committee doesn't convene all year, to basically take agenda of all these items that we have to check in on and, be good with checking in with Chuck about these items so that, anybody who may be following these can follow with the NAHAB. We did bring up the issue of the time of the day that the meeting are being held at the NAHAB meeting is something we're going to be discussing. So we're hoping to change that, and so all of that will definitely be included.
Great, that sounds great. And just one little data point to put it out there, because when I have, a voice about this, or microphone, or whatever. So I'm part of the Continuum of Care. I'll assume the chair of the Continuum of Care, which is the oversight organization for Homeless Leadership Alliance for the whole county, which deals with homeless. On Friday, we had a meeting, and the update as of Friday was 134 families with minor children living on the street, in cars, parks, all that. So that's the updated number as of Friday.
And Pinellas County?
Pardon? 134.
In Clearwater or Pinellas County?
Pinellas County. Yep. Do you have an update for Clearwater at all?
I have not looked at what was
Specific.
specific for the city.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crisis. It's an absolute crisis.
Any other comments before we vote on this item? Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 4 is citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. And I don't see anybody coming forward. So I'll ask Mr. Lane if he has anything to report to the committee.
Just again, I want to say thank you to all of you for being part of this. I would expect that each of you would be invited back again next year to do this all over again. You know, I work real hard at getting the right people here, or asking the right people to come, and I think I've done a really good job. I think you guys are a really good board. This was a great discussion, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, well, this concludes the work of our 2022 Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Same as Chuck, I would like to thank all of you for your work and your conversations and keeping everything civil and interesting and being curious and kind of pushing the envelope. Right, Gina? We pushed a lot of things on you too, so thank you. Hopefully, we convene this group again next year and we continue to make progress for this crisis that we have ongoing. So that's it for today. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Members of the AHAC that do not serve on the neighborhood and affordable housing, you can step down from the dais and then we'll take over.
You get to go and be warm now.
Got a little misprint on your date there. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Books are absent. They told me they would be.
Do you need a drink?
Pass Gina.
Yeah.
How about you after tomorrow? I'm going to miss all of these political classes.
Yeah. Are you gonna miss them?
Oh, it's just been relentless.
Uh-huh. All right. Today's meeting of the neighborhood, sorry.
No, sir, hooked up to this, sir.
Oh, I see us on TV right here, so,
Oh, they're
yeah,
there.
yeah, okay. Today's meeting of the Neighborhood and Affordable Housing Advisory Board is called to order on November 7th, 2022. Welcome, everyone. The agenda for today's meeting is on the wall at the entrance of chambers. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure complete record of the board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. I will ask the board members who are present today to introduce themselves and identify the fields they each represent.
Carmen Santiago, representing the people.
Robin Field, residential mortgage.
Kevin Chenault, representing the nonprofit industry.
Peter Scalia, representing the homeless population.
And I am your board chair, Camille Hefting, and I represent employers in Clearwater. Item 2.1 is approval of minutes. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, our October 11th meeting. May I have a motion to approve item 2.1?
Move approval.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 3 is citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here to speak to items not on today's agenda? Nothing in the comments, Pat? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to the next item. 4.2 is recommend City Council approval of the fiscal year 2022-2023 through fiscal year 2024-2025 3-year local housing assistance plans for Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund and adopt resolution 22-21. Mr. Lane will present this item.
Thank you. For the record, Chuck Lane, Economic Development Housing Department. This is a bit of a housekeeping item that we go through every 3 years. In 2005, the county, Pinellas County, authorized the establishment of the Pinellas County Housing Trust Program through Resolution 05237. And then the following year, with Ordinance 0628, they adopted, they established the Housing Trust Fund. So So what it was a one-time distribution of those funds to the local governments for affordable housing. And it was meant, I think at the time it was about $944,000. And what that program was intended to do was to kind of mimic the SHIP program, okay? Really kind of the guidelines are the same. Now with SHIP, it's a much more detailed plan. We have to put in, a lot of our objectives, and we create some of our own hurdles that we need to clear. So when we come and get monitored by SHIP, we're not only monitored by the SHIP regulations, we're monitored against the rules that we put in place that aren't required by regulation, right? So we try to be a little bit looser with these funds and create less roadblocks, like maximum purchase assistance and things like that. So when we come into a situation with the SHIP funds, where we're not able to do something because of our own self-imposed restrictions, if we think it's appropriate, we can tap into this funding source and use it. So it gives us a lot more flexibility, and that's how we use these funds. So that $944,000 I talked about, that's long gone. All that money was put out in the form of loans. So every year we get program income, and that's what we're living off of. So we've for the last, since I've been in this seat, we've averaged a balance between $200,000 and $300,000, which is a pretty good place for us to be here. And that's about what we have right now. So what we have to do is we have to budget all of that money in year one. We won't spend it in year one, all of it. We like to keep some of those funds available. And then we have program income, anticipated program income in years 2 and 3. And that sets up the budget for spending all of this. So what we have is we have $220,000, $220,662, that's cash on hand. And then the next few years, we anticipate getting about $40,000 in program income. About $3,600 of that or so will be used for admin. So the 3-year total budget, and again, it's estimated because we don't know how much program income is coming in every year, $293,710. So that is our plan. The plan has 4 strategies, not including administration, and those strategies are very, very kind of ambiguous, but right in our world. Produce new rental and owner housing, preserve existing rental and owner housing, promote housing opportunities, and provide housing services. So very wide net we have with those 4 strategies. So again, it supplements the other funds in a pretty convenient way for us to give us flexibility. So I'll take any questions at this time.
Any questions for Chuck?
This is a public hearing. We're required to have 2 public hearings going into this. The next one will be when I present it to City Council.
Okay. Just for clarification, so this is something that gets funded annually, but there's only a need for this board to approve or to vote on it every 3 years?
Yeah, it was funded, it was a one-time funding source. It was
Okay.
a one-time allocation in 2006. And we've been getting program income ever since.
I
And
see.
that's really what creates the funding.
Okay.
And we're required to do a local housing assistance plan with these funds every 3 years.
Okay.
So this will be for the next 3 years.
So, excuse me, is the program income from the repayment of the loans?
Repayment of loans, we get periodic payments with down payment assistance, and we have, if we've invested in something larger and the property sells, sometimes we'll get a bigger payment. Remember one year when I first started, we got Prospect Towers sold, and we got $800,000 right away to us. That kind of jolts the system, when it's our job to get out and spend that. So it can be unpredictable. It is, it's from the repayment of loans.
For the most part, it's the repayment of the down payment assistance loans that were used.
Down payment assistance, home rehab, yep. Well, we can use these funds to help fund a single-family home, like a new construction. So that money will be out there for a few months, and then when the property sells, we get it back. So constantly going out and coming back in, helping more and more people.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, does anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing no one's come forward, may I have a motion to approve item 4.1?
I'll take the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is old business items. Do any board members have anything additional to report? I did want to bring up the presentation to City Council, because I know we talked about it a few times before the AHAC was convened, and then we got busy with AHAC. So I plan on bringing the presentation to this board at our next meeting, so that we can discuss any changes before we go to City Council. Chuck and I were discussing that it would probably be a January presentation for this item. So keeping it kind of like general with what this board has been working on, and, but I just wanted to give an update that I'll bring that to this group next month.
So most years, January's pretty light, and we end up not having a meeting. We can have the meeting if we need to, but you could probably finalize that on the
Yeah.
December meeting. But January is typically the month, well, the first meeting of any calendar year, we are required to change our offices, right? So I think the board meeting scheduled for January, I think the next week is the work session,
Okay,
and that's when you would present the item.
okay,
So that could be the last time you're chair. You may not be chair if we
Right.
can make it any longer.
right,
But probably just to make sense, and you're gonna be the one to wanna deliver the message. You've been
Right.
chair for the last 2 years.
Mhm.
So it's important that you deliver the message, and probably important that you're still chair when you do so.
okay,
So we should really probably try to target January. If we do take it back, it's something to kill us, but.
okay. That's a good point. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Yep.
Should be easy. Okay, item 6 is Director's Report. Mr. Lane, do you have anything additional to report?
Just a couple of things to kind of recap now. You wanted me to bring some things back to the board, and I had some notes and I put it in my folder and bring them. But I know one of those issues is we're going to do a presentation on our down payment assistance program. Yeah, Terry Malcolm Smith to do that perhaps at our next meeting. And also, you wanted me to give a presentation on the roles and responsibilities of each of the boards. And from there, you'll probably take on a discussion about when we might have these meetings with the change schedule. And if there's a recommendation, I know there's been some talk about consolidating the boards. That's something the board is, thinks is a good idea and wants to recommend it. I'll carry that forward. We can talk about that as we go.
Okay.
But I think a presentation on the roles and responsibilities of both boards will be a good opportunity to have that discussion.
Yeah.
So we'll try to do that at the next meeting as well. We'll present our year-end federal report paper, which is very important that we have a quorum. If we miss, that's going to be a public hearing. So if anybody can't be at that meeting, which I think is December 13th, let me know as soon as possible. Because if I anticipate we're not going to have a quorum, we can find other dates.
Right.
The closer we get to that date, the harder it is to do that. Another thing, I can't remember if we talked about this in our last meeting, probably not, because I don't think we knew about it yet. The mobile home park is closing.
Sorry, what is?
Capri Mobile Home Park on US 19 is closing. A few years back, an adjacent property owned by the same owner, Southern Comfort Mobile Home Park, closed. That closed at the time because of a consent order with the environmental issues. The wastewater treatment system was polluting the area, so that they were shut down. And now that property is being redeveloped into multifamily housing. This property, it appears that it's going to be, it's being, eliminated for redevelopment. Now, they haven't submitted, but we have seen some plans in DPRC meetings that they plan to develop in multifamily housing. When Southern Comfort closed, a lot of the people moved into the pre-mobile home park, right? They had that opportunity. That's no longer an opportunity. There's no adjacent mobile home park, right? And also, the housing market, as we all know all too well, is far more constrained. This is going to be a really, really difficult effort. Southern Comfort was not in Clearwater. It was an unincorporated enclave. This property is in Clearwater. Okay, so what I did, and typically when that's the case, the entity with jurisdiction kind of gets the discussion started. So I scheduled a Zoom call for last week. I think it was last Thursday. Something like that. And convened, working with the county, convened all of the nonprofit groups that I think could help, that we think could, provide some assistance in this situation. Kevin was on the call, Salvation Army, of course, Area Agency on Aging, Hispanic Outreach Center, Directions for Living, on and on. There were probably 10 or 12 organizations that were represented. That call was a good start. We recognized that we need to get a lot more information from these tenants. We realized that, we just got to get going. We talked about trying to get some information session scheduled before Thanksgiving. The holidays can always throw a wrench into things. I talked to the city manager about putting some of the funding from the money the ARPA money that's going to Pinellas Community Foundation, using some of those funds towards this effort. Because it's one thing to gather all the help and all the nonprofit organizations. There's not funding there to pay for it. It's funds. And that, there's case management, there's housing navigation services, there's deposit rent, moving expenses, all of these things. I spoke with Michael Raposa last Friday. He gave me an estimate last week about just all of those services, all those expenses that are needed to move somebody into stable housing in a situation like that, average about $10,000 per. And I'm not sure I disagree with that. It's a lot. So I don't know how this is going to end up. This is coming at a time like Prospect Howard was, where we have funding that we can put towards it because of COVID.
Right.
In the normal course of business down the road, when that kind of stuff isn't going on, special funding isn't available, it's a lot more difficult to support these efforts. It really is. So, we have some funding available. We're going to see if the county can chip in a little bit on it as well. I haven't had that question. I haven't raised that question yet, so I'm probably unfair to say that publicly. But I'll be having a discussion.
Do we know the timeline of their closing and?
They were notified on, I believe, September 9th. That
Okay.
They have to be out of their unit by March 14th.
Okay.
So mobile home parks, this park is owned, as a lot of them are, by one entity, right? So none of the tenants own the dirt. They rent the dirt. Some of the tenants own the unit that they live in, some don't. Those that own the unit, there's a benefit to them. If they can't move their home to a new location, there's a cash benefit that's required of the owner pay them. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. Somewhere maybe $60,000. The Florida Mobile Home Park Relocation Administration Association. They were on the call. They're going to kind of make sure that everybody's aware of that benefit, because obviously that money can help with any funding that can go towards it, can help those relocations. So there's a lot to do. I have no idea how successful we can be. As a city, we don't provide services. We kind of gather the troops and provide the funding if it's available.
Is it even feasible for the people that own their units to find a place in Pinellas County that even has room for them if they wanted to move that unit? Is that even a possibility?
It's possible they don't. From what I've learned through this, it's recommended to not move a unit that's older than 1982.
Okay.
So the irony with most mobile home parks is most of them aren't mobile.
Right.
I know the Florida Mobile Home Park Relocation Association, I remember the acronym on that one. They're going to try to help, look into other mobile home parks to see where there might be availability, whether it's a vacant lot or another unit. So there's a lot of people helping.
Yeah, that's good.
But, there's just not enough solutions. Right? We'll see what happens as we roll through it. But, so many of these parks, there's so many of these parks in Florida. Hopefully there's some availability in a lot of them to move people around. We got assurance from the school board that there's, I think there's, I want to say, how many school-age children, was it 80 something, or was it?
I think it was 88 children, I believe, affecting 14 schools.
In that one mobile home park?
Yep, at all different school levels.
Yeah.
We were assured by the Pinellas County School Board at that meeting that if somebody had to move, to another section of the county, they could still continue to be bused to that school. That's
That's
encouraging.
good, yeah.
They weren't supposed to do that, but it was nice to school board to remind everybody of that. So I'll continue to update the NAM on that as we make progress. Hopefully we make progress.
Chuck, what are the chances that the new development that we're talking about that's going to replace that park is going to have an affordable component to it?
We've been talking.
Okay.
I have plans, but I haven't talked.
Chuck, I want to thank you for bringing that group together last week. It's been a topic for the last couple meetings I've been at outside of this group, and I'm involved in other organizations. This has been a topic, and getting that group together is a big help to moving forward in helping these families.
Yeah, I think once we get, the word out with all the tenants that, we can help, I think a resource there is
Yeah.
an important thing to have. Well, all of these providers come together in a room and they each have a table and all of the residents are invited to talk to folks to better understand what resources are available to each of them. So that's something we plan to do. But we got to get information from these folks, and sometimes that's
Right.
hard to do.
Right.
So one other item I think worthy of your attention at this point, we completed our RFP process for 1454 South MLK Ave. Okay, that's 1.3 acre property. We put out the RFP to encourage a home ownership project for half of the unit's going to be 120 AMI and below, the other half at 80 AMI and below. We structured it that way because we bought that property with CDBG funds. And so at least half of the units have to be 80 and below. The 120 and below is a requirement because it allows us the option to donate the property or sell for less than appraised value if all of the units are at 120 and below. So we had three proposals, really two, all were terrific, and really two rows to the top. And the winner was winner. What I'll be doing is I'll be negotiating a contract with the successful respondent, and that respondent was a combination of a team of Habitat for Humanity of West Vesco County and Suncoast Housing Connections. So they teamed up to put in this, which I thought was a really terrific proposal. Not Suncoast Housing Connections, Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services, doing business as Tampa Bay Neighborhood Housing Services. Suncoast Housing Connections was the other firm. And really the biggest reason we picked the firm we did, there were two risk issues that we thought were more mitigated by Habitat. Right now, we're getting interest rates that are flying out of control. No idea where they're going to end up, right? With Habitat having 0% interest, mortgage interest, or 80 and below, I mean, that question is limited.
Right.
What's it going to be like when these homes close? That was one. The other was with a complex of this size, you obviously need to create an HOA. And a complex of this size, that can be very tricky. And if an HOA fails, it can be catastrophic, to the whole development. What can happen is things can either fall out of place and fall out in disrepair, or they set up an HOA down the road and it's far more expensive with monthly payments. And I've seen both happen. I think both groups did a good job at presenting how they would handle and create and maintain that HOA. I thought the group that won really did a better job at doing that. So mitigating that risk, we all thought, the committee thought was very important. So I'll be communicating with them over the coming weeks. We're going to council first week in December to ask council approval to negotiate a contract with them, and then I'll probably have to come back with a contract. So that's in place. We won't let that hang out there too long. We'll keep moving on it.
Awesome.
And are we looking at single-family homes or townhomes there?
Townhomes, all 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath, I believe. The units that the successful proposer were bigger. I think they were between 1,400 square feet. They were good size. There were a lot of good things. Bringing home ownership into that neighborhood, I think, is
It's
really
important, yeah.
Really important. There's a lot of affordable housing down there, affordable with a capital A. We got Woodlawn, complex, 80 units. Right behind this complex, the Claremont County Housing Authority owns Norton Apartments. Community Service Foundation owns apartments also behind it. King Village, catty corner across the intersection, another 7 units. These are all, you know, when I say capital A affordable housing, they are legally restricted to be affordable housing. So, we're building a village, and that's not what you want to do. This is another affordable housing project, but it's different because it's home ownership. It gives the buyer, the family, a chance to build wealth.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have to stay in that income category for as long as they're living there. They just have to be in that income category when they buy.
That's awesome. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Item 7 is board members to be heard. I'll start to my right for comments.
I don't have a comment, but I do have a question. Do we have an update in reference to the board time being reset?
No, I think when we have the discussion about roles and responsibilities of each of the boards,
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's
This is
up to you
what
if
we're
you want to take
doing.
on that discussion.
Yeah. Okay, great. Our next NAHAB meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 12th, 2022 at 9 a.m. here in Council Chambers, Main Library. The board is adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, 2 meetings in less than an hour.